Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have some terrifying reptilian encounters to share with you. Before we get into today's upload, though, a couple of links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook version. They were written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. They're available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. The links to those are in the description as well. Now, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Today's first part of the upload. Near Carthage, Missouri, March 7th, 2004. Two witnesses had gone ATV riding in an area referred to as the Underground, which is a public and private storage facility near the town. The facility is miles and miles of carved-out caves and also stores thousands of dehydrated food containers for the Navy. It's also a fallout shelter that can hold up to 40,000 to 50,000 people. They had gone about 8 miles deep into the caves when they turned into an area that was marked Naval Authoritative Zone. The walls had become more polished or finished, which was striking because this was supposed to be a newly blasted area. Both witnesses just kept going, increasing their speed since the floor was now paved. They came upon an unusually painted pattern on the floor, which they thought was graffiti. The road then dipped down and took a 90-degree turn to the left. They were going too fast and knew they were going to hit the wall, but instead they passed through some kind of holographic projection of the wall. Now they had come to a whole new road system, this one large and much older than the one they had just came from. They began to notice a musty and damp odor that intensified as they went deeper into the area. The lighting had changed as well. It was now much darker than the other area from which they had come. They turned on their headlights and slowed down, also noticing that it was starting to get cooler. They made a right turn and started to come up on what they thought was a rest area about 40 feet away. One of the witnesses then saw something that at first thought was a pair of fountains until the objects moved. They both stopped immediately. About 30 feet away, they saw two creatures. One was very tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more, and very powerfully built and reddish in color. The other was smaller, about 6 feet tall, and was pale, almost albino in color. This one was not as powerfully built as the other. Both beings resembled large reptiles. The beings said nothing, but the witnesses did get a strong, violent feeling, an evil presence of some kind from the taller one. One of the witnesses screamed, and they immediately turned and started back. As they looked back, they noticed the taller entity was following them. One witness had an overwhelming feeling that if it had caught them, harm would come to them. They passed through the wall projection again, looking back, and saw the tall entity rise its arm holding a weapon of some sort. It fired and hit one of the ATVs, which apparently killed the engine, causing it to stop. The rider ran to the other ATV and jumped on it. They drove away and looked back to see that the tall reptilian had now stopped at the graffiti area on the cave floor. It seemed that the creature would not cross that strange marked area, some type of barrier for the creature. The witness now slowed down and were about 75 feet away from the creature. The two men and the reptilian stared at each other for about 15 seconds and they left. The creature remained standing without moving. One of the witnesses called the police on his cell phone, but he was told that the security at the facility would handle the matter. Indeed, security waited for the men and threatened to arrest them if they didn't leave. That was the initial report. Here is the statement given by one of the witnesses, Pat Garrett. This past Sunday, the 7th, a friend and I were riding 2 ATVs in a place called the Underground. It's public and private storage area in Carthage, Missouri. What makes this place such a desirable storage facility is that it's all underground, hence the name. They are constantly expanding this place, and there are miles and miles of carved-out caves in there. And it goes pretty deep. This facility stores thousands and thousands of food containers, all dehydrated for the Navy. I've seen them, and it's public knowledge around here. It is also a fallout shelter able to hold some 40 to 50,000 people. I tell you this to give some sense of the vastness of this place. I worked there as a subcontractor some 9 years ago. I helped build the office spaces up on top. I started to explore then, about once a month, and did so all the way until this past Sunday. However, I never went as far or as deep before either. It was fun to take the ATVs and cruise underground, no rain or weather problems ever. We were approximately 8 miles in, and I'd say maybe 500 feet deep, when we took a turn down an area that was marked Naval Authoritative Zone. I remember making a comment about the Navy getting a ship down there and said that was easy posting. The walls became more defined, as in polished or finished, and this was striking because this was supposed to be newly blasted area. Totally backward, I would think. Still thinking nothing was wrong, we kept going, actually increasing speed because the floor was now paved. Now we could go faster. We came upon an unusually painted pattern on the floor, and I thought, cool graffiti. Kids have been down here. We're safe, won't get into any trouble. The road dipped down and then took a 90-degree turn to the left. We had no warning, and we were going too fast. I knew we were going to hit the wall, but we didn't. We passed through some kind of projection on the cave siding. Although I don't know how it was done, it was real looking. We passed into a whole new road system. This one was large and much older than where we had come from. We started to smell an odor, musty, damp, growing stronger as we went deeper. The lighting decreased as well, probably 60% less than the other areas. We turned on our headlights. We continued on at about 5 to 7 miles an hour for about 5 minutes. And we noticed it was getting cooler, which was to me very strange, since once inside the cave a certain distance, the temp always stays the same. We made a right turn and started to come up on what I thought was a rest area on the side, about 40 feet away. I thought it looked like a pair of fountains until they moved. We both stopped immediately. We were approximately 30 feet away now, and what we saw were 2 creatures. One was very tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more, and powerfully built, reddish in color, and the other was smaller, about 6 feet. But it was not red in color, but pale, like an albino, and it was not as powerfully built as the other. They looked like reptiles, living, walking, intelligent beings, not human, not warm-blooded, reptiles. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. They said nothing, but I did get a strong sense from the big one, a malevolent, evil presence. My friend screamed, and we turned around, a power turn. We started to go back out when my friend said the big one was after us. I looked back, and it was following us. I had the overwhelming feeling that if it had caught us, that harm was going to come. We passed through the wall projection, and I looked back and saw the thing raise its arm. It had a weapon of some sorts. It fired and hit the ATV my friend was on. The engine died, and he stopped. I told him to jump on, and he did. I gunned it, and then my friend said, "Stop." I slowed down, and he said, "Look." I looked back, and the thing had stopped at the graffiti on the cave floor. The ATV was on its side of the graffiti symbol. It was obvious the thing would not cross the marking. I slowed more. We were about 75 feet away. I stopped, and the 3 of us, me, my friend, And the creature, reptile, man thing just looked at each other for about 15 seconds, and let me tell you, that was a long time. Then I started to leave. It stayed there waiting, not moving until we were out of sight. As soon as we cleared the cave, I got on my cell phone and called the sheriff's department. I was told that they would not come out, and the underground security would handle it. Then they hung up. By law, they are not allowed to do that. We can hang up on anyone, but a government office, be it city or federal, cannot hang up on you. Anyway, I was shocked and scared, and we took off across the outside of the underground over to my truck. Sure enough, underground security was waiting for us. We were told to leave, not to tell anybody about this, that if I came back, the Navy would press charges. I was also told that I had 10 minutes to leave or I'd be taken in. What can I say? We left. It's been 3 days since this has happened, and I'm still shaken. I'm a powerful person, 6'4", 265, and I have never been afraid in my life. Until this past Sunday. I lost one of the two of my ATVs, VIN number 5Y4AG001Y61A071120. As far as I know, it's still down there. My friend will not talk about it, and I have not heard anything from anyone about it. I did call the sheriff's department, and they said they never got a call from me. Well, that's my story. I've never had anything strange happen in my life, and I'm very concerned about this. I can tell you, I had an urge to kill things I saw down there. I don't know if that is a natural reaction, as most people have a natural revulsion towards reptiles, or because of my faith and the feeling of evil I had, or what. All I know is they are real, and I wish I could do something, anything to combat or help against these things. Take care all, and thank you again. Today's second part of the upload. My encounter happened in an obscure cave here in Upper Austria. The area is known for salt mining, the salt mines of former Habsburg Empire. I am a trained and certified geologist. I studied at the University of Salzburg and in the United States at the University of Wisconsin. I've explored and documented cave systems throughout Austria, Czech Republic, and Poland since 1988. In May of 2011, I was in a narrow cave that a colleague had recently found. This was approximately 2 kilometers north of Obertron, on the opposite side of the descending mountain range in the foothills near the east bank of Hulzert Sea, or lake. As I moved through the difficult passage, I started to hear voices emanating from the darkness ahead of me. I stopped to collect a few samples from the cave wall, chipping with my pick. I moved deeper, maybe 50 meters, until I noticed voices again. I'm familiar with echoes and the Doppler effect, sounds in caves, but this was totally different. I stood quietly for several minutes until the voices stopped. Again, I moved through the cave, almost crawling at this point. After another 40 meters, I ascended into the chamber that was big enough to accommodate several people. There were 2 wide openings on the opposite side of the chamber. Each looked like it had been excavated by a machine. There was also an obvious rotting odor. As I examined the chamber, I noticed an odd red iridescence as I passed the light over a rock floor. When I knelt down to collect a sample, I again heard voices coming from one of the passageways. At this point, I was terrified and started to hurry back through the narrow cave. After I squeezed back several meters, I was able to turn my head just enough to look back into the dark chamber. A yellow light slowly made its way into the chamber from the left opening. Then there were several yellow lights following the first. As the lights moved through the opening into the chamber, then back through the opening on the right, I was able to see the beings. The sight sent fear throughout my body. I was actually paralyzed. The creatures were humanoid in stature, but these were not human. Each varied in height, but all looked the same, muscular lizards that walked upright like humans. There is not a better term I can use to identify these creatures. These creatures wore dark-colored, full-body uniforms that extended and covered the feet. I couldn't tell the exact color of the skin, but each had a pronounced muzzle. The long tails were very prominent and swiftly swayed back and forth as they moved forward. The arms and legs were massive. I could detect the masculineness through the uniforms. There were voices also, as if they were talking to each other. The voices actually sounded human, though I could not detect a language. There were possibly 20 or more of these creatures as they walked single file through the chamber and into another opening. When I was convinced it was safe to move, I quickly withdrew from the cave. I think I may have been in shock because I barely remember anything that happened from that point until I reached my office. I decided to keep a private journal regarding my encounter, but I have not discussed it with anyone else. My colleague, who originally found the cave, told me that he had explored the cave since my encounter, but never mentions anything about the chamber, other passageways, or bizarre beings. At this point in time, I'm starting to doubt that I witnessed these creatures. Is it possible that I hallucinated this encounter, or possibly experienced something from the past or future? I'm a trained professional who deals in reality, but my beliefs have been seriously shaken. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's upload. I just needed to get out of my head. My pops is going in for a third surgery on Monday, and it's just, I don't even know anymore. It's taking its toll on me, my mom, and the family, not being able to see him. I know he's alright, he sounds alright on the phone, but it's hard not seeing him. So, I don't know. Thanks for all your prayers, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's upload. Thanks. See ya.